I get a lot of questions about what I do with my deer once I kill them. Well, the answer is I haven't paid a processor to do my deer in about 15 years now. I do them all myself. And what I want to show you today is a very simple method on how to process your own deer completely with just a knife. So stay with me. And so what we're going to do today is steaks and stew meat. And I'm going to show you how to completely break down a deer, how to separate all the muscle groups, which of those muscles, in my opinion, is good for steaks. I'm talking about grilled steak. And which of them is good for stew meat. For my method, really all you need is one good, thin, long knife. I do use multiple knives from time to time. Like I'll use a boning knife and a butcher knife, but for the most part, you can do a whole deer or elk or moose or whatever with one good stout knife. And it goes a little something like this. So here's my knives of choice, guys. These are Rada, R-A-D-A cutlery. Sure you've seen these knives before. These are the same knives your grandma had in her knife drawer. And they're made by the same company in the same spot, made in the USA. Rada also offers their own sharpener. It's a pulled-through sharpener. When my knife gets to the point where it needs to be steeled, I pull it through the sharpener a couple times and then lightly steel it on a ceramic rod, and it's, you know, newspaper slicing sharp. So cool. And as you can see, just going along with this simple method, I'm doing this right in my kitchen, right on my countertop. I got about 5 feet of open counter space right there, and I'm using about 4. Don't take much, guys. A knife, cutting board, something to package with, and, you know, 4 or 5 feet of counter space. So, I like to, if at all possible, start with a whole deer carcass. It's just easier for me to manage. But when I'm in the field, I quarter the deer up, carry him out. But when you got a whole carcass, the first step is, of course, you got to quarter this deer so you can get it into pieces that you can fit on your counter in your kitchen. Alright? So, when I quarter a deer, I start with the shoulders. I take off this front quarter. I just pull the front leg up. And slice that shoulder off. And as you cut into it, it'll separate with the natural separations in the meat. Pretty easy to do and not mess up. Flip this guy over and do the other front quarter. Again, you're just pulling up that front leg and starting underneath it. And filleting that right off of the bone, right off of the carcass there. Nothing to it. It's pretty simple. Okay. There's your 2 front quarters. Separated. Now I'll stick those back in the cooler. Then I'll take off my brisket and side meat. Which is a pretty simple process. You're just going to go right against the bone and start peeling that right down against the ribs. And all this makes great stew meat. It's a little fatty for some people, but I've always enjoyed the taste of deer fat, especially in a good stew. When you get into this portion here up against the backstrap, just be sure to make a nice clean separation and not mess up your backstrap, okay? Again, it's pretty simple. One thing you shouldn't ever do is be intimidated by this, because all I'm doing with that is making stew. Doesn't really matter how it comes off of there, okay? And for your back straps, you know, I do mine a little different than some people. Matter of fact, if you watch a bunch of YouTube videos on deer processing, every video you watch, somebody does it a little different. But basically, you can see this main separation from where this back strap, it starts to thin out, and you get into this neck and shoulder meat. I think this is what on the beef chart you call the ribeye section. So I'll generally make two big steaks out of this nice fat portion of the back strap, and then the rest of this will either go into stew meat or ground, or, you know, grind meat, whatever. But the most efficient way to do it that I've found is just peel out everything at one time. And you're just going right against the spine, all the way down. Just let that knife ride right against that bone. All the way down till you feel the hip bone, and you can feel the hip bones in there. And this hip bone's kind of at an angle like this, and you can see the separation here. So you just go across that hip bone like that. Then I come back in and go against the ribs. And just follow that rib all the way down. And I'll fillet that whole back and neck out at the same time. Again, this is just how I do it. I'm not saying this is the only right way to do it. No twisting required, no side holding. You're just filleting a nice chunk of meat off the bone. There it is. One nice long back strap. This end that's not marbled, I make my steaks out of. This marbled end, this ribeye section, and the neck meat, I just cut that up into stew meat. Pretty simple. Makes excellent stew meat. And this makes excellent steaks. For these hindquarters, again, a lot of people do it different. Here's how I do it. I start on the inside. Same thing with the shoulder. I start on the inner, between the thighs there. It's just easier for me to find the joint. It's easier for me to ride against the bone. And so I just start against the bone and start filleting, following as close to that bone as I can. Okay? Once you expose this ball and socket joint, it's not a big deal to just cut the tendons loose. See how that just popped apart with just a knife? No saw required. You're getting the bone makes a little curve right here. You want to make sure you follow that in there, because you're missing a lot of meat on your ham if you don't. But it doesn't really matter, because, like I said, you're going to take the biggest, beautiful muscles and make steaks out of them. And what's left over, you're going to make stew meat. There it is. Hind quarter removed. And, you know, this muscle here, These muscles here, this is your sirloin tips and your rounds, are going to make excellent steaks. And all this shank, including this hamstring, makes excellent stew. All that will boil down. This will get so soft and gelatiny. It's just a delicious cut of meat. It's delicious. All this is delicious from here to here. Everything on here is edible and wonderful. Just depends on, you know, for this shank stuff, you just got to boil it a long time. You know, boil it for an hour, and then put all your stew ingredients in and simmer it for another hour, and it's just as tender and delicious as any meat you've ever eaten. Tenderloins are in this inner cavity between the thighs. You remove all the fat carefully. You take your knife, just follow that bone around. Come here against the spine. Pretty simple tenderloin removal is. You can almost pull them out without a knife. Again, there's your tenderloin. Come in against your bone. Come around the other side. Start peeling. There we go. Two nice little tenderloin cutlets. I'll generally trim those up like so. Get the ends of them off so that they're all relatively the same thickness. And I'll cook them right on the grill just like that. This goes into the stew pot. Anytime you're boning out deer also, I'll tell you, in all these fatty sections on the deer, you have these little, look like little beans in there. Those are glands. You want to make sure you get all that off, because boy, you bite into one of those glands and it doesn't taste very well at all. I can tell you from experience. Anyway, two pretty little tenderloins.